This is the ultimate guide to male psychology after a breakup. So we're going to be talking today about all the insights that I and my team have learned in the past decade that apply to men as a whole psychologically that you might not hear typically elsewhere. I'm going to be talking about ideas like the self-reliance aspect, the avoidant psyche, understanding trigger points, why you really need to stop expecting men to reach out to you after a breakup, and really the major differences between men and women after a breakup. So in 1996, psychologist Ronald Levin started studying the ideal of masculinity. So he posits that there are like 8 core concepts that make up the idea of masculinity. There's emotional restriction, avoidance of femininity, a focus on toughness and aggression, self-reliance, achievement, rationality, objectification of sleeping together, and homophobia. Quite restrictive, wouldn't you say? But what I'm interested here is the self-reliance, because it's something that I see as a core component that keeps coming up time and time again in the post-breakup period. You see, our internal research has consistently shown that the clients that hire us have typically avoidant exes. I actually did a poll in our Facebook group last year where I asked, hey, what is the core attachment style that you would classify your ex as? And overwhelmingly, most of our clients said that their ex had avoidant or fearful avoidant tendencies. Now, this is important for our discussion because one of the most common traits of an avoidant is that they are fiercely independent. In other words, self-reliance is one of the things that they pride themselves on. And for the most part, it's something that everyone should have a certain amount of, but where it gets men in trouble is in relationships. Often relationships are about sharing reliance. An ideal relationship would probably be one where you could actually rely on the other person. Of course, relying on someone else requires you to be vulnerable, and that's where most men get freaked out, especially if the man is an avoidant. So let's talk a little bit about that, the male avoidant psyche. But what does that mean? They usually fall victim to the following 3 concepts. Number 1, they struggle in moments with being vulnerable and sharing feelings. Number 2, they criticize others who are vulnerable and feel an internal shame because they themselves struggle with vulnerability. So it's kind of a weird mirror concept where someone else they see who is vulnerable, they criticize them because they feel bad that they cannot be that vulnerable. They're very big on independent behavior and self-sufficiency. Big shocker here. So avoidants are typically trying to reconcile this weird paradox. They want to receive love, but they don't want to let anyone close enough to give them that love. So their solution is they avoid. And that brings us to breakups. What better breeding ground is there for avoidant behavior than the amount of emotion and vulnerability that goes into a breakup? For the past few months, I've relentlessly been throwing this graphic, which you should see on your screen right now, in my clients' faces. I had many different variations of what I call this: the avoidant, anxious, self-fulfilling cycle, a self-fulfilling cycle, a relationship death wheel. It's all the same concept. It's essentially the relationship prison that most avoidants will find themselves in from start to finish. And there are 8 stages to it. They start out seeking love. They find you. They convince themselves that their troubles are over. They start noticing some worrying things. Usually this is anxious behavior or a threat to their independence. They contemplate leaving. They actually leave. They're happy that they left. Then they start to grow lonely. Then they start to go depressed, which leads them right back to the beginning, wanting someone to love them. And again and again and again and again and again, the wheel rolls around, crushing everything and everyone in its path. They can't escape it. They try to. It's impossible. But really, what we're interested in is this part of the graphic right here, stage 3, noticing some worrying things. And this is really where the concept of trigger points becomes important. Trying to show her like, hey, these are the types of questions people ask. Here's how you answer them. I want to see how you do. And what was interesting is we went to our private Facebook support group and just started randomly pulling questions from that. And an interesting question flew across our desk. It went something like this: my ex broke up with me. He's avoidant. I don't understand why he doesn't get freaked out by something as simple as meeting my parents, but he gets freaked out when I even talk about the idea of doing things together in the future. Not doing them, but talking about the idea of doing them. Quick sidebar here. I looked everywhere to find an exact post for this article so that I could put it up at the screen and show you, but I couldn't find it. So it's lost amongst the sea of posts in our Facebook group. You're just going to have to take my word for it. But anyways, here's the point. I think this is relevant because it's a direct example of the concept of trigger points. Now, what's a trigger point? Well, in this context, a trigger point is anything that will trigger an ex's avoidant side. And generally speaking, with avoidant men, it's any type of threat to their independence or self-reliance.